It's like they took a grand historic structure and stripped it of its soul, turning it into just another generic consumer space.
And then there's Nine Elms, which he describes as an ominous havoc of sunlight devouring terrible towers.
Oh, wow.
He doesn't mince words.
No, he does not.
He even quotes some Londoners who were less than impressed with the project.
One even compared it to a bad SketchUp model, which, looking at some of the buildings, is a pretty apt description.
Yeah.
And then there's a New American Embassy, which he likens to a giant dystopian egg carton.
Right.
It's not exactly a compliment.
But it does capture the sense of alienation and inhumanity that many people feel when they encounter these types of buildings.
Right.
And this is where Watson's critique goes beyond aesthetics.
Okay.
He connects these architectural trends to the growing social and economic disparities in our cities.
He talks about how rising housing costs are pushing young people into cramped, often substandard accommodations.
Yeah.
While wealthy foreigners snap up luxury apartments that they may only occupy for a few weeks out of the year.
And he contrasts this with the situation of migrants often housed in four-star hotels at taxpayer expense.
Wow.
It's a stark juxtaposition that highlights the complex social and economic forces at play.
It makes you question who these new developments are really for and what impact they're having on the existing community.
Exactly. And Watson argues that modern architecture is often complicit in perpetuating these inequalities. He says it's not just a reflection of these disparities,
Right.
It's a tool for reinforcing them.
He even extends this argument beyond the city center, talking about how suburban design can also segregate people by income and lifestyle.
Right.
He criticizes the tyranny of zoning, which creates these isolated pockets of affluence and poverty.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're designing our way into further division.
And he argues that this lack of mixed-use spaces, this separation of communities, is eroding our sense of civic responsibility and shared purpose. It's like we're retreating into our own little bubbles.
Right.
And that has consequences for how we function as a society.
It's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
But it's not just about social division, right?
No.
Watson also talks about how modern architecture is impacting our relationship with nature.
He brings up those massive glass buildings and how they contribute to the deaths of millions of birds each year.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that we often design these structures with little regard for the surrounding environment.
It's like we're trying to create these hermetically sealed worlds that are completely divorced from the natural world.
And that disconnect has implications for our well-being. It affects our mental and physical health, our sense of connection to something larger than ourselves.
You know, it makes me think about those studies that show how access to nature can reduce stress and improve cognitive function.
Right.
It's like we're depriving ourselves of something essential when we design spaces that shut out the natural world.
And it's not just about birds.
Okay.
He also talks about how modern architecture often prioritizes cars over pedestrians,
Right.
creating these vast impersonal highways that cut through our cities.
It's like the built environment is actively discouraging us from walking, biking, or just being outside and interacting with our surroundings in a more human-centered way.
Exactly. And he ties this back to his larger point about social control. The way we design our cities can influence our behavior, our choices, even our mindset.
It's a bit unsettling when you think about it. It suggests that we're not always in control of our environment, that the buildings and spaces around us can subtly shape our lives in ways we might not even be aware of.
And this is where Watson shifts his focus to the construction industry itself.
Okay.
He shows some pretty shocking images of shoddy construction, highlighting the work of what he calls cowboy builders.
Right.
Houses with damp problems, roofs falling apart, windows missing.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're cutting corners at every turn.
It's appalling, and it makes you wonder how this is even allowed to happen.
He points out that the problem is particularly acute in the UK,
Okay.
where the demand for new housing is so high that builders are often rushing to complete projects without proper oversight.
So it's not just about bad design, it's about poor execution as well.
Right.
And ultimately, it's the people who live in these homes who suffer the consequences.
Exactly. And despite the government's recent pledges to tackle ugly and poorly constructed housing developments, Watson remains skeptical.
Okay.
He argues that we've heard these promises before,
Right.
and yet the problem persists.
He seems to suggest there's a disconnect between the rhetoric and the reality. There's a lot of talk about improving the built environment, but the actual changes on the ground seem to be happening very slowly.
And he points to the back and forth in the U.S. regarding architectural standards for federal buildings.
Right.
President Trump issued an executive order promoting beauty in federal architecture, but it was quickly reversed by the Biden administration.
Yeah.
It highlights how these issues are often caught up in political and ideological battles, which can make progress even more challenging.
It's a reminder that these debates about architecture are not just about aesthetics. They're about values, priorities, and ultimately what kind of society we want to create.
And speaking of the future, Watson brings up the concept of the city of tomorrow. He seems both fascinated and horrified by what he sees coming.
He talks about how technology is rapidly transforming our cities, with self-driving cars, smart buildings, and even drones becoming increasingly commonplace.
And while these technologies hold a lot of promise,
Right.
Watson seems concerned that they're being implemented without sufficient consideration for their potential impact on our lives and communities.
He even suggests that these technologies could be used to monitor and control us in ways we can't even imagine.
It's like he's warning us that we're sleepwalking into a future where our cities are designed for technological efficiency and control rather than human flourishing.
It's a chilling thought, but it's also a call to action.
Right.
We need to be more mindful about how we design and build our cities, or we risk creating a future that's more dystopian than utopian.
He ends his essay with a powerful image.
Okay.
The city of tomorrow as a place where globalist architecture exists everywhere, belongs nowhere, synthetic, short-term, unsustainable.
It's a bleak picture, but it's also a challenge. It's like he's saying we have a choice. We can continue down this path of ugliness, alienation, and control, or we can fight for a different future, a future where our cities are places of beauty, connection, and human scale.
Yeah, it's a powerful message, and one that I think really resonates with me, at least.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that we're not just passive inhabitants of these spaces, you know?
Right.
We have a role to play in shaping the built environment.
He's making a point that goes beyond simply critiquing bad architecture.
Right.
You know, it's about recognizing that the choices we make as individuals, as communities, as a society have consequences.
Right.
And those consequences are manifested in the world around us.
It's about taking responsibility for the kind of future we want to create. You know, we often think of architecture as something that's just there,
Right.
something we have to accept. But Watson is challenging that notion.
Yeah, he's reminding us that we have a voice, we can demand better.
Right.
We can push for change. And that starts with awareness.
With paying attention to the buildings and spaces around us.
Yeah.
Questioning why they look the way they do and who benefits from those design choices.
It's about becoming more conscious consumers of architecture, so to speak.
Exactly.
You know, we wouldn't buy a car without researching its safety features or its environmental impact.
Right.
Why should we be any less discerning about the places we live, work, and spend our time?
Exactly. And just like with any other product, we have the power to choose.
Right.
We can support businesses that prioritize sustainable building practices. We can advocate for more green spaces and pedestrian-friendly design in our communities.
We can even choose to live in places that align with our values.
Yeah.
Whether that's a walkable neighborhood, a historic district,
Right.
or a community that prioritizes affordable housing and social inclusion.
And it's not just about individual choices.
Right.
We can also get involved in local planning initiatives, engage with our elected officials and support organizations that are fighting for a more beautiful, sustainable, and equitable built environment.
It's about recognizing that architecture is not just a matter of aesthetics.
Right.
It's a reflection of our values, our priorities, and our vision for the future. What kind of legacy do we want to leave for future generations?
Yeah.
What kind of world do we want to create for ourselves and our children?
These are big questions, and there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
But I think Watson's essay provides a valuable starting point for this conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it encourages us to think critically about the built environment, to challenge the status quo, and to demand better.
You know, after going through this deep dive with you, I'm looking at my own city with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
I'm noticing things I never really paid attention to before, the way that certain streets feel unwelcoming to pedestrians, the lack of trees and greenery in some neighborhoods, the cookie-cutter designs of so many new developments.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That awareness is the first step towards change.
Yeah.
Once you start seeing these things, you can't unsee them.
Yeah.
And that can be a powerful motivator to take action.
I'm also noticing those pockets of resistance that Watson talked about, the beautifully restored historic buildings,
Yeah.
the community gardens, the streets that have been reclaimed for pedestrians.
Those are the glimmers of hope,
Right.
the signs that change is possible, and they're often the result of people coming together, raising their voices, and demanding something better for their communities.
It's inspiring, and it makes you realize that we don't have to accept the status quo, you know?
Right.
We can create a world where architecture is no longer a tool for control, but a force for liberation, a celebration of human creativity and connection.
So to our listener, we leave you with this question.
Okay.
What one small change could you make in your community to advocate for better architecture?
Maybe it's planting a tree, attending a city council meeting, or simply talking to your neighbors about these issues. Every small step, every act of engagement can contribute to creating a more beautiful, sustainable, and humane built environment for all of us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a thought-provoking exploration, and we hope it sparks some new ideas and a renewed sense of possibility.
Remember, we're not just passive observers of the world around us. We have the power to shape it, to make it more beautiful, more just, and more aligned with our values. Until next time, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and keep fighting for a better world.